Boom.
It's Tuesday, ladies and gents, and we're going to talk to an ostrich. A what?
An ostrich?
Yeah, we'll find out.
Hold up.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business, on social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
Business
Bros. It's that time.
It
It's
sure
nice.
is.
It's winter, but it's hot here in SD. Ham, hit it.
Dropping the fire. All right, all you business pros out there. Before we jump into the show, just a quick reminder to please subscribe on whichever platform it is that you're listening to us on today. Give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe, and drop a review. Help other like-minded business owners find value from our awesome guests while we rise up in those podcast rankings. We'll sincerely appreciate every single one of you for it. And if you want to be a guest on the show, we'd love to have you on to learn from you as well. Go to www.businessbros.biz to schedule your time slot. Don't forget to follow us on all social medias at Business Bros Pod. All right, everybody, we're so excited and honored to bring yet another incredible guest to the Business Bros Pod. Now, here's the truth. If you are not preparing for retirement, at some point you will need to pull your head out of the sand and realize that life only moves in one direction. You need to get ready. Our guest today is on a mission to bring financial literacy to the world with tailored financial information and social accountability. The discussion around personal finances is, for whatever reason, a taboo subject. With what our guest created, however, he's breaking down those walls and opening up that discussion, helping people build good money habits and simultaneously addressing a large systemic cause of economic inequality. Through open communication and social accountability, our guest believes we can truly overcome these broken government and educational systems and create a happier, more productive society. We're so excited to learn what our guest has to offer. Joining us today from Ostrich, the host of the Silicon Alley podcast. Welcome to the show, William Glad.
Woo!
Oh, sorry, I'm still jamming.
Financial
It's all good, me too.
literacy. Whoa, that's a big couple of words there. And it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I teach 17-year-olds in the mornings, and trying to get this type of information out into the world. Man,
You can't handle the truth.
you definitely got it in. So, William, real quick, just because I always like to start off at the beginning. What are we selling here? What is it that you're doing? What are you selling?
Yeah, so Ostrich, we've built a mobile app available on iOS and Android, so go download it, that will help you build strong money habits. So essentially, we are gamifying America's financial future.
Oh, dude, turning it into a game. All right, so here's back here. You can kind of see, where is it? This way. There you go. There's Monopoly right there, hidden right there. And I always tell my students, look, Monopoly is an awesome game, right? But the first time you played the game, you sucked at it. You didn't know what you were doing, and it was horrible. The second time you played, you had a better chance of winning. And the difference between the two is not that it's just a game, but it's that you learn the rules, right? You learn the rules in finance, and once you learn the rules, you have a better chance of winning. That's how the board game works. You're taking it to a whole new level. You're making something that's traditionally not very fun and turning it into a game. Does that kind of explain what it is?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Hanan. That's exactly what we're doing. So we are creating a fun way to improve your finances that doesn't, compare you to other people in negative ways, or, kind of overcome those negative biases and feelings that we have about money, because everyone has a relationship with money. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's not positive, or we have these negative associations with it. So we're kind of breaking that down and making it really simple for people to start to build good money habits and start to work towards where they ultimately want to be, which is, wealthy and healthy and happy.
Oh, let me tell you, dude, I got a little story. So my background is in taxes and accounting, right? After I went broke on my very first business, I had to enroll in tax school because I wanted to know who the hell is this Uncle Sam guy and why was he taking all my money, right? And what I noticed, what I learned at being in taxes, I mean, I was, 24, 25, baby face, right? Sitting in a tax office, talking to people about their finances. And I realized real quick, I'm growing up Mexican. We didn't really talk about money very much. In my household, we did, but in other households, we didn't, right? You don't bring it up. You don't talk about it unless you're that professional, right? Unless you become that tax person, then all of a sudden it's like, a therapy session. You show up on tax season, on tax day to do your tax return, and they tell you everything: divorces, kids are born, people died, whatever the situation for the entire year, they open up. You're turning it into a game and trying to bring something that's super taboo, something that people don't want to talk about, into that forefront so that we actually have a conversation about some of these hard to talk about topics. How are you getting them to open up? I mean, I know it's a game, but how do you bring those concepts to light?
Yeah. So the way we've set it up is that we want it to be social, but it doesn't have to be, right? So if you're not comfortable sharing information, you can do solo challenges. You can start to build habits on your own, and we've got the app structured so you'll get those regular notifications. But if you look at the research, and there's a ton of research out there about how to like hit and achieve goals. And when you have regular weekly check-ins combined with a social accountability partner, essentially you have a 95% higher likelihood to hit a goal. So that's what we encourage people to be social about it, but you don't have to be. And you can start with anything you want. So our challenges aren't just focused on paying down debt or saving or investing. We've got giving challenges in there. We've got like fun, like no spending, cut out things that you're not happy with already. So we're taking a different approach that is, a little bit more all encompassing and allowing the users to kind of dictate where they want to go in terms of what's important to them. So, we'll help guide, but at the same time, use it how you want, right? So if you're not comfortable, you don't have to start with social challenges.
I love the fact that it's a game, though, right? So in my classroom prior to COVID, I have a bunch of Rich Dad Poor Dad's cash flow board games, right? And so my students sit down and we learn to play cash flow because of the vital information that you just identifying a good deal versus a bad deal, understanding the way stocks operate, a dividend, what a dividend is, or how to. Bitch. Yeah, exactly. Right. In a matter of balancing your cash flow statement and understanding, assets and liabilities, like all these cool things in a game makes it that much fun, right? That much more fun. Now, you kind of mentioned something about different aspects of life, and this is what I wanted to ask you about. So my students are getting ready to start life. So they're starting at zero, right? They have no debt and they're trying to grow from there, that wealth accumulation stage. But there are other people who might come into contact with your app who are not at the beginning. They're actually in a hole. They're negative and they need to work their way out. Can you tell me a little more about customizing the game to kind of help whatever point of life somebody's in when it comes to their finances?
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, I think more people are starting in the hole than not. Unfortunately, if you look at all the statistics about consumer debt, though, depending on what demographic you're in during the pandemic, some savings have gone up if you're on the higher income spectrum. But for a lot of people, they are starting in the hole. And so you can start with debt challenges, right? So that's what we encourage folks that are coming in that maybe have made some choices or decisions that they're not happy about. Start with debt challenges, and we'll help you pay down debt. Start thinking about saving and investing. But first, you got to get rid of that debt, especially if it's high interest debt like credit cards or things like that. So we'll push people based on what their needs are. And if you're starting from ground zero and it's your first job, maybe out of high school or college or whatever, then you're in a great position to start saving and investing in building a nest egg that with compounding interest will, make you a millionaire by the time that you retire if you do it right. So
when you're playing some of the games, the worst part of a game is always the setup, right? One of the reasons why you don't play Monopoly as much, because you got to deal out the money, you got to deal out the cards, right? The setup sucks. It always does.
It's worse. It's so much worse.
Exactly, right? When we're setting up using Ostrich, are we syncing to like bank accounts? Are we syncing to retirement accounts? Like, how is it tracking what we're doing so that we can win both in the game and in life?
Yeah, so this is where we're doing something that's a little different, right? We're not linking to your bank account, so we don't want that information. I don't want your social security number. You keep that. That's yours. None of my business, right? That's not what we're doing. So we make it really easy, make it really frictionless to get people into the platform and just start with a challenge. So what we do is we push people to initially do a 7-day spending challenge where they essentially pick one thing that they want to cut out, that they're not happy with, something that you're already, maybe you do too much online shopping because of pandemic stuff, whatever it is, you get to dictate that. And we just get someone to do that for a week, right? And again, you get to pick what it is, however much that is for you. And as you make progress, we'll start pushing you into other challenges So it's really easy to get set up. There's not like this crazy, setup process where you've got to put in, your whole life story and try to go look up an account password to 12 different accounts and they don't sync right anyway, which is what frustrated us when Andrew, my co-founder, and I were building this. That's what frustrated me, is like I consume Mint and Personal Capital and a lot of these apps, but no matter how many times I try, they just don't work perfectly. And we're just thinking there's got to be a better way to do this in a way that's more accessible. So.
Well, I love the fact that you're building habits, small ones at a time, right? I remember reading Kiyosaki's book, and in it he talks about laser focusing. Dave Ramsey talks about the debt accelerator, right? How do we get out of debt? You laser focus the attention on one particular debt at a time, and then take that and roll it over to the next one, roll it to the next one. And they try to gamify that a little bit as the way they did it as well, right? It was almost like, I know you have 4 cards. Start with, even though mathematically you want to go with the highest interest rate one first, start with the ones with the smallest debt on it. Why? Because you want to win. We want those endorphins. We want that feeling of, yes, I've accomplished something. Tell me about how we win in the game, and how am I going to get that feeling of, yes, I've accomplished something?
Yeah. So you just described the snowball strategy, if people want to fancy a term for that, but that's that snowball strategy of picking the smallest debt, paying it down, and moving on to the next balance, and just going until boom, you're at zero. The other, if you're more mathematical, is avalanche, where you start with the highest interest rate, but we don't need to get that technical. If you want to learn, just jump into the app and you'll be able to pick whichever strategy, or focus on like a credit card challenge. And, I got off on a tangent there now. So can you remind me what the question was?
How do we win? What do we get when we win certain challenges?
Yeah. So badges, leveling up, it's a points badge system. And one of the things that we're doing right now and we're working on, it's not quite in the app yet, is rewards. So we're going to be partnering with companies to provide rewards. So I don't know if I can talk about it yet, but we've got one fintech app right now that's an investing fintech app that we're looking at partnering with, that you'll actually earn dollars in their app when you complete one of their challenges, an investing challenge. So you're going to get badges. You're going to get that social account, that social recognition within the app. You're going to be able to share it to other social media platforms and be like, "Ooh, I paid down my debt," or like, whatever. Celebrate all that stuff, the fun things that, we need, that hit as you mentioned, the endorphins, the dopamine, all that kind of stuff. But we're also going to provide rewards through our partners.
What about What about those people who are now debt free? So let's assume that they've been playing the game for a little bit. They've succeeded, right? They are debt free. Now we're looking at things a little bit differently. Now we're building a savings account. Now we're looking to kind of park our money and make it get to, put it to work somewhere. Does the app take you through that progression as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so this is something that we've looked at, because when we were doing research and talking to people about what they needed, we talked to folks that were kind of just starting out in investing, and then other people that were in the financial independence or FIRE movement, and, way ahead, or people that were high earners and wanted to they have their investments that for retirement where they're doing safe things, but also wanted to play in some more riskier assets. So we've got it structured where we've got challenges where you can go where we'll help people get that baseline. Like DCA is the way, which stands for dollar cost averaging. One of the most proven methods where you just put the same amount of money into the stock market on a regular schedule, and through compound interest and whatever the market's doing, you're always investing at whatever rate it is. So when the market's down, you buy more because it's cheaper. And when the market's up, you buy less. But over time, you average in and you end up doing really well. It's proven one of the most effective strategies. So that's for the beginners. And then as you start to advance up, you can do custom challenges. So we've got preset ones, but you can also do custom ones. So we've got someone that was interested in investing in farmland and in cows, which was really interesting. So they can use the app to go set up an investing challenge where they're buying and setting up and going to buy farmland and cows and buy interest in cows. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. And we've built that flexibility with preset stuff, but also custom, so that if, Hernan, you had something that you wanted to do specifically that we didn't have, you can go create that challenge yourself.
Holy cow! I had to drop that dad joke in there, right? You guys are doing it all. No, that's some impressive stuff. So let's talk about the journey to get here, right? Because what you're providing is absolutely vital, absolutely essential. People need to have fun with this, make it a game, and just start taking those little steps and developing the habits and the routines to get themselves in a position to succeed. What I always talk about when I talk about retirement is I always say this, dude. It's not an age problem. It is a cash flow problem. If you can solve the cash flow problem, you're buying yourself nothing but time to do whatever it is that you want to do, figure out what makes you happy. And I think what you guys are doing is helping people achieve that goal, figuring out the cash flow problem. It is not the age problem. But you, building a business, have come across a ton of problems. So walk me through the journey. Why in your right mind would you develop an app? There are so many out there. The competition is steep. Changes with iOS and Fortnite problems with, Google and everything that could possibly go wrong and crazy is happening. And yet you're here building an app.
Yeah, and I guess it's important to say that like I don't know how to code, and neither does my co-founder. So there you go. Just add that to the layer of like trying to figure out how to go build a technical product and not being technical. We've gotten to where we are today and we started this in May of 2019, and we were approved for iOS and for Android at the end of last year, 2020. And we spent less than $5,000 to get there.
Ooh.
So
hold up, wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, dude, okay, I'm gonna pause you right there because I'm gonna tell you right now, software development, app development, those could be huge money pits if you're not careful. So you gotta,
he ain't lying.
Yeah, you gotta share some insight here. How do you get from where you are to where you're at? $5,000?
Yeah, so we definitely made some mistakes. So let me just pause there, because if you heard that timeline, it's a long time. A lot of time has passed since we started the company. We had something where we were going to do investing in China at one point, but what we went through was this process of like talking to development firms, and no matter what the specs were, they always seemed to fall in the same range, which just kind of told us that no matter what, they were going to quote us the roughly what price we wanted to hear, like 30 grand to 50 grand. No matter if they were, an outsourced firm in India or in the Ukraine or in the US, they were going to somehow get to that like level of spend. But we almost pulled the trigger on that. And we were going down this route where we were about to spend a lot of money, and we hadn't fully vetted out the product at the time. We hadn't fully figured out if the challenge structure worked. And luckily, as silly as this sounds, is I had a really huge expenditure. I ended up setting aside a bunch of money that I was going to invest in the company, about 50 grand that I was going to put into the business, that went away. And it was a personal situation with a family member that needed it, and it solved a problem, and money was the only thing that was going to solve it. And so I made the decision, because I still had enough savings, and was like, we'll figure this out. Andrew and I will figure this out. So I made that decision to give that money away that was going to go into the business. And so that decision is what really made us figure out how to build it ourselves. Because otherwise we would have been another story where we spent 50 grand on an app that didn't work.
Dude, that is powerful right there. I've been listening to Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins, right? And he he shares a story about Sylvester Stallone, and how Sylvester Stallone, when he was writing Rocky, he wrote Rocky, he's trying to sell it, nobody's buying it. He's super broke, ends up selling his dog, right? to try to make ends meet. But the point was, he kept himself in this fear. He kept himself in the situation. He could have went and got a job, but he kept himself there to feel uncomfortable, to use those creative juices to push him to a level that nobody would thought was possible. And you're describing something very similar. Like, there's a lot of different ways that you could have approached that, but you stuck it in there. Like you didn't even, I don't know, maybe, scared. Yeah. Out of your mind. Absolutely. But determined for sure. And that opened up the creative juices, right? Let's see. Yeah. Catalina says, not sure if you talked about this already, but what are your goals for Ostrich by the end of 2021? So let's go over that, that crazy creative mindset and where you're going to go with it.
Yeah. So to answer Carolina's question, by the end of the year, we are going to actually go out and raise some funds. So we're anticipating opening up around here shortly. But we see ourselves with over 200,000 users, and really making an impact. So that's really where we expect to be. There's some things in terms of building out functionality. We want to make more robust social features. So there's some things that we need to do. We need to hire on some more engineering, do a whole UI UX design to make it even more sticky. But by the end of 2021, we anticipate being at about 200,000 users and really cranking. So.
Well, I got a great company. If you're ever looking for programmers, they do outsourcing programming, and that's all they do. They do high level programmers. They're sitting right here behind me. Fullscale.io. I'll make an introduction for you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I mean it's really only for companies that are ready to go to that next level and need that programmer like support staff on to have somebody on there all the time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's you're getting ready to go for a round of financing. Tell me about that aspect. Like, I always have the question of, you're going to go get funds. That's great. But you're also giving up an equity position in your company. Like, what are you thinking about? What are you weighing and as far as options, and what are you looking for when you go out to get that first round of funds?
Yeah. So this is something that we've struggled with internally, right? We wanted to get as far along as we possibly could before we raised any money so that we can keep as much of the business as possible. So that's been our thought process, is let's hack this thing together. And for context, because I think we kind of got away from it, but we used a no-code builder to do it. So I used a no-code builder on the front end. I learned how to use the program. And if you were interested in it, it's called AppGyver. It's free, which is why we ended up on it. And some crazy flexibility that allows us to do what we needed to do. You have to set up some other things for back end, but it's super, super flexible, which there's a lot of no-code builders out there, but I couldn't find anyone that was as flexible as this one. It takes a little bit more learning, but that flexibility was absolutely crucial for us. So that's kind of the context in terms of how we ended up getting to where we are. And in terms of what we're thinking about from a fundraising perspective, it's finding the right partner. So we've been having some conversations with investors along the way, and knowing that we're not raising yet, just introductions. So let's go talk to people that do large fintech investments globally. And we've had some conversations, which also helped us kind of map out what we should be doing before we take on money. But there's definitely a fear, right? Because you're giving away part of your business and you're bringing on a partner that's essentially a marriage, right? So we want to find the right investors. We're not looking just for money, because there's plenty of money in the world. We're printing trillions of it today, which is a whole nother story, but printing trillions. But we want to find people that believe in our mission and our vision of improving global financial well-being, and that gamifying finances is the way to get there. So,
and I'm going to ask you, how old are you?
I'm 28.
28. Okay, cool. So, and that's still young, by the way. It's amazing what you've accomplished so far. What do you think is some of the biggest lessons you've learned going through this journey? I mean, everything from not having a lot of money, or having the nest egg to put into it, to not having the nest egg to put into it, to figuring out how to code stuff, to meeting, angel investors or venture capitalists, whatever you're looking for to go for, private funding, whatever it is. Like, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned that you would pass on to yourself getting started if you could?
I think I was afraid early on to ask for help. And I think it's kind of a pride thing. It's kind of I don't know if this is going to work, and am I going to be wasting someone's time? Do I want to burn this bridge because maybe it'll be better to talk to them later on when I've got more stuff figured out? But I think one thing that I've learned is that the startup community is really, really giving, right? So go ask other founders, people that have done it, people in your network, for help. So the fintech company that I talked about that we're bringing on as a partner from the business side here shortly, that founder, when I first met him, we went out to coffee. He gave me advice. He was already 2 years down the line with his business. They'd raised $2 million already in funding. And, he spent an hour and a half with me and walked me through their process. And we've kept that relationship up. I should also note, though, I was kind of oddly jealous at the same time that he's younger than me, and, there's that we have our whole comparisons with people, and especially age for some reason tends to be one of those things we look at. And I'm like, this kid's younger than me, but he's already raised $2 million. I'm kind of jealous, but he's got good advice. And you get over that stuff, but go talk to people, go get advice from people. The community is really, really giving, but you've also got to go put in the work. And that means doing the research. So after someone gives you advice, it means following up with them. It means actually taking action on the advice you got and not just going to the next person and the next person, and the next person. So, but that would be the thing that I would say do more of early on.
What about surviving? Like, this is one thing that I always wonder when you're first getting started. I mean, you talked about doing a $5,000 budget. Like, how do you even, and having your nest egg kind of go away to another situation? How does one grind? I mean, when you're first getting started and you're focusing your attention just on this thing, how do you survive? Like, how do you continue to move forward and eat? I mean, I know top ramen's not expensive, but it still adds up after a while.
Yeah, no, great question. So I was in sales before I started the business, and I was a saver. We can talk about this, but part of the reason why ostrich is so important to me is that my parents got divorced because of money. It's the second leading cause of divorce. Finance is the second leading cause of divorce in the United States. And in 2008, when the housing bubble burst, their relationship burst with it. They just didn't have the communication skills, weren't on the same page, lacked some of the basic things that they needed to be successful, and it took a toll on them. And so finances has a real world impact, right? You hear about the Robinhood trader, the 20-year-old Robinhood trader last year who had the balance was shown wrong on his account. $750,000 in debt is what it showed, that he owed $750K, and he went and committed suicide. Like, this stuff is real. There's real world impact. And so that was implanted in me early on, the power of saving and having finances. And so I got really interested in that. And so from a very young age, I've been a saver, and I built up a really strong nest egg. So I knew that I could float myself for, at this point, a year and a half, almost 2 years now, on my savings. And part of that also goes to, cutting down on expenses, right? My girlfriend, we have a rent split, and I don't pay as much. I still pay rent every month, but I don't pay as much as she does. But at the same time, I ended up moving in with her, and that cut her rent down. So it's still a win-win. So it's finding ways where you can bring your expenses down and focusing on the necessities so that we can spend time, Andrew and I can spend time on the business and developing the business and not worrying about, as you said, the money. But it just comes down to being smart and frugal and saving.
Who do you surround yourself with? Because when you have a vision of something that you want to accomplish, oftentimes we go and we share it with the people we care about the most, right? Parents, spouses, the people who are closest to us. And if they can't clearly see the vision that we see, they try to protect us by putting us down. Like, that is stupid. That's not going to work. Don't even waste your time, right? They try to knock down your plan, but they do it in a loving way, kind of, right? But they're not quite, really pushing you in the.
I don't think it means what you think it means.
Exactly, right? So who how did you get around that? Who do you surround yourself with? How is your support group? What, and maybe books, mentors, podcasts, that sort of stuff, to keep you in that momentum to keep going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do have to shout out my parents. They are the most loving and supportive individuals. So that right there, I think, is absolutely helpful. At no point have they ever said, you can't do this, you won't do this. We know you're going to be successful and you're going to do it. So I'm very blessed to have that. So that's something that I've never been in doubt in my mind. And from a support system perspective, friends are very supportive. But I'm a big reader. I read a ton of books. I read 40 plus books a year, mostly nonfiction, and just try to go out and learn as much as I can. I listen to podcasts. You guys have a great podcast. I mean, I love Tim Ferriss. Reid Hoffman's Masters of Scale has really, really great conversations with founders. And then I think more recently, it's, again, like I said, my advice for myself starting out would be to go have more conversations, reach out. The startup community is so giving. There's a VC named Brad Feld, who's a big investor. He started Techstars, which is a big global accelerator. And you can email him, and he about 80% of the time will respond. And this guy gets, I don't know how many thousands of emails a day, right? And he will make connections and things like that. There's people in this community like that have this give first mentality where they want to see other people succeed. They want folks to succeed. And I think that's especially crucial for anyone starting out. And I would say, especially if you are in a demographic right now that is underserved. So minorities and women, where there typically aren't those connections, don't be afraid to go out and reach out to these folks, because they want to see you succeed. People want to see you succeed, even if the people next to you that are closest to you don't see the vision because they're thinking about you in the short term and protecting you and have all these other associations from the past, right? If you're working towards something, working towards a vision, building a business, building yourself, you've got to think and move forward. So reach out to those people, have those conversations, and surround yourself with positive individuals.
Dude, that's some powerful stuff. Have you thought about starting your own show? Like, you started your own show. How have you been using that to reach out to these people, like to have those conversations? Because I know for me, it's been a super powerful tool.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the secrets is like the amount of knowledge I've got from guests, just like sitting down, having conversations, hearing their stories in particular areas is well worth the amount of time, energy, and effort it is to produce and put out a podcast. Just right there. It's just so great. It also gives someone a context where if you're not comfortable just reaching out for advice, I had that VC I was talking about, Brad Feld, on the show, and I'd read all of his books already. I had attended his little online course, which is free, that he puts out there about how to raise venture capital. I joined a startup community, and by just luck, ended up getting him on the podcast. And getting to have those types of conversations with people that you admire and look up to is just, it's beautiful. It's priceless. So,
dude, it's our modern day cheat code to life, dude. That's what it is. It's a life hack, dude.
60% of the time, it works every time.
I keep saying, dude, I listen to audiobooks all the time, and it's nonstop for me all the time. I'm trying to educate myself and learn something new and get better and better. But you know what's more amazing is when you get the author on the show and you get to ask him direct questions. That's even more powerful, dude. I love it, man. I love it. Thanks, dude. William, thanks for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate you taking the time. Before we head out, let people know, how can they get the app one more time? And so that, the listening audience who's not watching, because it's scrolling on the screen, let them know how they can get it too.
Yeah. So you can go to either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and just type in Ostrich Build Money Habits and we'll pop up. Or you can go to getostrich.com /download and it'll take you to the right app store if you're on your cell phone. So
sweet. Ladies and gents, look, here's what it comes down to. Look, I know money is the root of all evil, right? Mm-hmm. You know what's evil? What you have to do when you don't have it. That's what gets super crazy. You can use it in a positive way. First, take care of yourself when it comes to finances, and then you can help as many people in as many ways as you want. So take care of your finances and have some fun with it. Go check out the app. Like I always say, whenever we have people on the show who are giving you products or services, go try it out. What's free. The worst? It's free. The worst thing that can happen is you learn a little something, you develop a couple habits that are in a positive direction, and you're set. So give it a try. Go test it. Learn. Now, here's the thing, and I love Billy Jean out there. For those of you who know who Billy Jean is marketing, I love what he says. It's so amazing. There's no such thing as $1 million idea, only $1 million execution. It comes down to the action that you're going to take. So here's my advice. Whatever it is that you learned, don't be selfish with it. Go out and take action. It's the only way that it's going to make a difference in your life. William, thank you very much for being on the show. Ladies and gents, we will see you again mañana. It is Wednesday, hump day. Until then, peace. And we're out.
Business Bros.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the Business Bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the Insurance Bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@csfirst.com to schedule a free consultation or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.